to Tom for setting this day up. Thank you, Tom.
My pleasure.
And thank you to the guys, Tom Wright and Sid, come in a bit later. And thank you to Rich for bringing these guys down, getting along. Should be a good fun day. Be as active and interactive as you can. Try and learn off of each other and get what you can from each other's experiences. You generally find you'll do a lot of your learning off of each other through the day. So try and share your experiences as much as you can. Right, the first thing we'll do is just going to hand over to Matt, who's going to give us a quick introduction.
I think Greg's pretty much covered it.
Oh, okay,
Hello. I'll repeat everything that Greg said to me. No, thank you for coming. Hopefully you're going to be able to pass this on to all the other coaches that haven't made it today. And if you're anything like me, you're going to be full of questions, and I'm sure that the coaches are going to be more than keen to answer those. So do that, and anything that you can relate to club or anything that maybe doesn't come up that you've got questions about regarding stuff that goes on at club or county district, do bring it up. We've got the beauty of having this time with these guys and their experiences, so yeah, I would make the most of it. And everything else that Greg said.
For me, days like this are very much about sharing. Okay, I've come down here to share the ideas of the way that I work, things that are successful. But what's really nice is that I'm now in front of a bunch of new faces who I'm sure will have their own ideas as well. Okay. I don't want us to leave at the end of the day and think, well, that's the right way, that's the wrong way. Okay. There's just some ways that we will look at and share. And no doubt there might be ideas that you have that I can build into the training and the coaching that I do as well. What we'll do, we'll touch on, just slightly to begin with, we'll touch on the beginning of the innings. Okay, game plans at the start of the innings for our opening batters, and possibly a top four. Sometimes. So I think it's very important that your 3, 4, and even 5 to an extent have an understanding of what we should be looking to do at the start. So at this point, I'm going to throw it over to you. Hands up, someone tell me, what do we think our plan should be for our batters at the start of the innings? What's going to be in their heads?
What's the pitch like?
Absolutely.
Conditions as well?
Yeah, an assessment of conditions.
I guess it's an assessment of the surroundings, because I look after the girls, the under 13 county girls, and even like the use of side screens. A number of times I've had to, get the girls to have a look at the pitch, and what can we see from down the bowlers end? Because half of them wouldn't even thought about saying, well, should we get a side screen across, things like that. So
No, I'm delighted with the first 2 points you raised. Anybody else? I mean, let's go on a bit beyond that.
Yeah, what have the opposition got? Have they got spin bowlers, or are they all seam bowlers?
Okay.
And again, women's cricket. So some teams you come up against are like 4 or 5 spinners, maybe only one seam.
Yeah,
obviously true as well.
Yeah, so prior knowledge of the opposition, does count for something. Whether that's the be all and end all, I'm not sure, but it certainly counts for something. So far, what we're saying is, let's assess the conditions, let's assess the pitch. We're making perhaps before that first ball's bowled, we're still making a bit of a guess as to what's going to happen. But let's say now our opening batters, they're striding to the crease, full of confidence, hopefully. What would we expect their game plan to be prior to facing the first ball?
Probably, I imagine they're thinking err on caution at the end of the day. Play it safe at the start.
Yeah, why is that?
They want to test the conditions further, probably more than anything. Let's say a pitch has been damp for a few days. You want to see what movement there is in the air.
Absolutely. I put here tactics. It's so important. This is the question I asked to batters like, what's your plan? And the first thing they say is, so you've not got a plan? It's got to be like that straight away. I think almost actually just going ahead a little bit, one of the best things that's happened to cricket is 2020. You know, we used to have the situation where, and we've all experienced it, between the overs, the batters go to each other and they go, right, well, we'll hit the bat ball and we'll keep out the good one. Brilliant. Genius plan, that. Okay, but now it's more about, right, well this guy I'm finding a bit easier, I'm going to look to attack this bowler. The field's a bit deeper that side, smaller boundary there, we can get singles hit and so on and so on and so on. And if that's not in their head straight away, well, they're not going to play. What I would say to my batters, not just at the start of the innings, but for the majority of the game, your job is to get as many as you can risk-free. Okay? And I think as many as you can is really important. Sometimes I will see a batter, they may hit the first ball for 4, and they get a boundary early in the start of the over. They block the rest of the over. What if they could have hit another 2 boundaries? Have they actually got as many as they could risk-free? But sometimes they might face the bowler and think, oh God, this guy's a bit difficult, he's a bit quick, he's turning it quite a lot, whatever it might be. And at that moment in time, as many as you can, risk-free might be, blooming heck, I've got to survive here. You know, and a maiden might be okay. You know, the number of times I have to say to a batter, it's all right to have a maiden. Okay. What sort of, and this is very general because it's very difficult to put an exact sort of figure on it, but what sort of run rate would we be looking for in the first 20 overs of a 50 over game? Throw that out to me. What are your thoughts?
I sit back to what I said at the start, it just depends on the pitch.
Absolutely. When does that assessment of what we can achieve start? The very first ball. Alright. We see the carry, we see the pace, we see the swing, what the pitch did. You know, we want these batters to quickly be making a judgment of what's happening. One thing I think is extremely important is singles as well. Tell me about getting singles. If you were going to help players, what are your suggestions to them?
Know when you're going to know where the ball's going, and you're going to be setting off straight away. Have it in mind to be setting off straight away.
Absolutely.
If it goes there, I'm going.
Yeah, so assume we're opening the batting, we're probably facing a quick bowler. Where are these singles going to be?
Square and line.
Could be. Yeah, could be. And the reason I started to say could be, and then actually perhaps lent towards you a little bit more, was because of course there's going to be gaps. Right? And if the ball goes into a gap, that's a bit of a no-brainer. We're going to run a single, or more if it carries on rolling across the square. But where I lent towards you was when we bat, if we imagine we have like a 3 metre circle, and then we've got the 30-yard circle. And what I talk about with batters sometimes is that gap between the 3 metre and 30-yard circle. I talk about that as being sort of no man's land. Right? Nothing good comes from that, because if you're hitting it hard enough to go into that area, not out the 30-yard circle, you won't get a single, because it'll get to the fielder quick enough that they can pick it up and get it back. And also, you're probably hitting it with enough oomph, but if you do make a mistake, catch it a bit early, leading edge, whatever, it might just carry. So what I talk about with my players is if we're going to defend, defending's not just about staying in. It is about getting runs as well. When you defend, keep it in the 3 metre circle. Then if the keeper's back, it doesn't matter that it's gone in line with fielders. You can run. And then if you're not going to keep it in that 3 metre circle, you make sure you hit it hard enough to get it out of that 30-yard circle. Okay, whether that's on the floor, in the air, if it's out that 30-yard circle, who cares? Okay. I think often those balls that are caught, and not exclusively so, because cricket is not a black and white game, but often those balls that are sort of caught in the covers early on or a square leg are those little pushes. And there's just not the sort of the drive, the intent to go, actually, do you know what, reasonable ball, dot, 1. Or, this is comfortable, I am going to belt it. And then what the players will do is they make that judgment of, am I getting enough balls that I can belt? Or if not, fine. But I'm not just going to, block up an end, maiden after maiden. Each time I hit it, or it hits me, we're looking for a run. Okay? And then just maybe the field come in a little bit, and you might get a few easier chances to get it through the 30-yard circle as well. What they must also do as well is talk to each other. Talk with your mate down the other end. You know, we will have all seen it where it's yes, no, and off they go. Tell your mate, get them backing up. It irritates me intensely that I don't see batters backing up. So then even if you arrive after the first over, first ball, whatever it might be, second over, and your two batters are thinking, oh my gosh, this is difficult, it doesn't matter. We can still tick the runs along with singles. But then, like I said, at the same time, I would be equally disappointed if, as I said earlier, if they got 3 when they could have hit a few boundaries as well. And this is the really tough thing about cricket. It's making the right decision at the right time, and also understanding that we play a game with a hell of a lot of variables. Right? The pitch varies. We're playing ball with a seam on it. It's not even round. Okay, it'll go to the right, it'll go to the left, up, down. All right. So this is the exciting thing about cricket. But the point here is even from the very first ball, you must have educated your players in a way that as they stride to the crease, whether they're number 1, 2, even down to number 11. They are actively thinking about what they must do right now, what the best thing is. If we're trying to get as many runs as we can risk-free, how am I going to get those runs? And also remembering, try and get them to think beyond some very simple things, but also thinking about, okay, which bowler do I find easiest? Because that might be different to my mate down the other end. Okay, and just because he's whacking that bowler, is that the best thing for me? Because if it's not the best thing for me and I get out, is that the best thing for the team? Okay. And what we'll find is the best cricketers are used to watching, thinking cricketers. And that's what I try ever so hard to install within all the players that I get. As far as striking the ball accurately and sweetly, there's some very generic things, not just in cricket, but most striking sports, that will allow our players to hit a ball sweetly and time it well. But very often it's just the shot selection, the tactics that might just let them down. Now I'm very keen to progress the innings. We're getting to the middle, the spinners are on. But does anyone want to just raise anything about the start of the innings at the moment and game plans?
Would you ever see someone coming in as like a pinch hitter to try and get the game off to a cracking start?
I think it's really interesting. I think pinch hitting was something that, we know that's for the Sri Lankan team with that World Cup, they sort of introduced it. And I actually think we've sort of, particularly the way cricket's going, perhaps not so much the test matches, but all other cricket, the majority of your batters will score at a rate. I think if you watch club league cricket now, the 18 to 20-year-olds that are playing, they are the start of that 2020 generation. Now I can remember, and I'm sure you guys will, going back not too many years, if you scored 180, you probably won. But we look at the league scores this year, that you get to 240, and if you're then bowling second, so you batted first, you scored 240, you go out, and you're sort of thinking, we've got to bowl well here. And the scores of 300 and lose. When I say in the nets in the practice, okay, you miss hit that, you are out. We're going to keep doing that shot, and you are just going to get better at it. For all the sort of good players that I've seen come through and are looking at gaining contracts and whatever else, I see very, very few classic, orthodox, steady type batters. Right? I know our guys are physically fitter and stronger and whatever now, but I think it's really important we do teach our players and give them the opportunity to practice hitting the ball hard and just getting good at it. So batting against spin, and of course we'll include some game plans against spin as well. Just with the person next to you as a 2 or a 3, just discuss and share your experiences with each other, and then we'll sort of come together again to discuss our experiences of, now this can be either yourself batting against spin, or it can be your players that you've worked with. Okay, go. So just share with me some of your experiences of batting against spin, of coaching these players to bat against spin. What have you come across? What's happened? Fear. Absolutely. Yeah.
Fear of your spin.
Fear, and to an extent, nerves. All right? I think sometimes nervousness can be a bit of fear, but yeah, fear.
It's interesting though, because if you do get fearful or you get nerves, it's harder to use your feet and make those positive quick movements, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, spin coming on, what do I do? And you get rooted, they get rooted to the spot, you know, and that's it.
I think as coaches, we need, like you get the Hawkeye and the pitch maps, and we start to work out where the ball lands. I think also at times it's important that as much as we hear, we must get to the pitch of the ball. We don't do that very often. We can't do that because we've not got jolly green giant legs. Okay? Perhaps we can get to the line of the ball sometimes. And I do think there is occasional opportunity where spin is concerned, that fast ball, among said, if it is that little bit fuller of a good length, you might just have that extra stride to get out and cover it. But I think a lot of the time, we don't actually step to the pitch of the ball because we can't reach that far. Okay? And I think actually is a limiting point on how our batters will, I won't say defend, but certainly hit a ball hard. When we start thinking about, because they end up coaching a lot of players where they have great big strides. And because of that, you end up being in the middle a little bit. And you meet the ball with quite a flat bat and quite a weak point of where you would hit it. Just because it's running in that, step to the pitch of the ball, step to the pitch of the ball, have a big stride. Okay? It's much more important, especially if we're looking at power, alright, that we're able to just transfer a bit of momentum, a bit of weight into the contact. And that's going to come with, as I described to the players, a comfortable stride. And I do think getting to the line is very important. I work with players on getting to the line a lot. You'll see players outside the line slightly, nicking it, slicing it, ball between bat and pad, things like that. But I do also agree, there is that one ball where you can just reach a bit further and kill it. Okay, against spin. Wouldn't happen against pace. Okay.
I suppose that's another thing as well, looking recent, especially with the DRS, not wanting to overcommit too much, so you're able to play out in front a little bit more rather than bat and pad together as well.
And I think as well, we certainly see that talked about more with DRS, and what Greg's talking about is actually defending, so your bat is in front of your pad. We've heard before, bat and pad together, don't let that ball go through. Okay. But actually, we should have come about that before in the sense of not getting out, but if our bat is in front of our pad, we will get more runs. We'll get more runs because sometimes we nick it, we inside edge it. Right. If our bat and pad is together and we inside edge it, where does the ball go? It hits us nowhere. Okay. If our bat is in front of us, as we inside edge it, let's not think about the push, we're not going to have the ball in the middle of the bat. Okay. If we inside edge it, there we go. And we get a 1, we get a 2 sometimes. We're getting accidental runs. Happy days. Alright? But again, that's part of the tactic. I will always work with players, especially batters. It is about giving yourself the best chance. Okay, as I said earlier, there's so many variables in cricket. The height of the ball, how it moves, the pace, and so on and so on and so on. Okay, we do not hit the ball in the middle of the bat all the time. But if you are giving yourself the best chance, and shot selection will creep into that a lot, then almost that's all you can do. We can always keep working to be that bit better. And I think it's sometimes, a player will come off a pitch, throw their bat and hit the pad and whatever else they do. And I think, if they've chosen the wrong shot, they've not given themselves the best chance, then by all means, you sit down and have a song. Okay. But if you have given yourself the best chance, all the practice you've done and your shot selection's been good, and somebody got you out, be disappointed you're out because nobody likes getting out. But sometimes, all right. Okay, and I say with that, defending bat in front of your pad, when it is safer, once we get to the older age groups, and they might have short legs, silly points in, but it will also get you runs. Okay, and actually if you're getting runs, they probably won't have short leg and silly points so much. I'll have to stick a 45.
So leg spins, turning away, but they'll only pick that once his turn.
Yes.
Not actually from looking at the bowlers.
Yes. Yeah. So you got your leg spin coming up, and then he's going to bowl a googly, his hands run like this, and the batters don't see it, and you're standing there thinking, oh my gosh, he's run from 3 foot wider, he's bent his elbow this time, and you're not surprised it's a different ball. But yeah, why don't we pick that?
Probably because I'm looking at, look at you on the pitch, where it's pitched, where it's obviously.
And beyond that, against it, why don't we do that? That's exactly it. we don't practice enough. Okay, you know, that'd be one thing. I'm sort of jumping ahead a little bit, but because what we often do, we get a player who's not great at playing a drive, not great playing a forward defensive. We'll throw them straight ones before I go on. So at the moment, basically, we've got a bit of fear. We don't sometimes pick the ball well enough. What happens to
when you say about picking the ball?
Yeah.
I've been doing it with my daughter, sort of like so she can just see, as a guideline, like an off spinner you're going to see the ball, as a leg spinner you're going to see the back of the hand, the side of the hammer, just so they, little clues like that they can start to pick up. And
already.
Just get used to it, otherwise they keep seeing the same action.
Yeah, already. And even that goes into when they first start. You know, the bowler marks their run up out, they're doing a couple of loosens. If they even do that, they might think, oh, it's a leg spin, I know what's going to happen, before they've even bowled the first ball. But yeah, just starting to see different clues, it's all got to help. You know, it all will help. You know, I think sometimes we do players a disservice by not letting them have a go. You know, they get to under 13 district, under 15 county cricket, and all of a sudden we go, right, you've got to learn to play against spin now. What happened to the first 10 years of my life, coach? Oh, I could have learned that already. Okay.
I think also when we talk about when we do practice at all, and you're talking about fear factor, all that very often happens in a net is that batter gets out, everybody has a big cheer and a big and all that's doing is instilling even more fear, isn't it?
Yes, and I think also, I mean, I do a hell of a lot of one-to-one coaching, you know, I'll be quite direct and clear, and I won't beat about the bush with players. You know, and sometimes a lot of things installing a bit of resilience as well. You know, and you know, I'll say, you know, I'll throw a ball and we'll say, you know, that got you out, that did get you out. You know, I'm going to throw a few more there. I probably will get you out again. That's what I'm trying to do. What are you going to do to change it? We do this for fast bowling, and we do it for batting against pace to an extent. Let's break it down, okay? Imagine, I am a batter. I am about to face a spinner. How can I break down essentially what's about to come towards me? So perhaps you have to set up, now I put here, you know, this is not just for training, this is to assist in game play. We are going to break it down so it's easier to do. Smaller, manageable chunks. But that same knowledge of the way it's broken down in practice, well, that's exactly the same as when a bowler comes at you in a game. Okay, you still break it down. And once you, because we talked about fear with players, once they have this understanding of, okay, how I can break it down, actually what is coming at me, well then that fear might just start to just go away a little. Okay. So batting against spin, the spinner's coming at us. We're going to teach or coach this player to bat against spin. How can we break it down? What sort of chunks? Discuss it in your pairs.
Something we said over here in terms of just trying to understand which way he's spinning it.
Yes.
Maybe at the start of the game is either watching him in his warm-ups or watching the bowlers do their warm-ups, and you can understand each bowler, what they're doing, where they're spinning away from you, into you, so you can start to formulate your game plans from there. If you don't get to see that, then at the start of the run-up, generally a spinner will be tossing the ball up in the air, so you can then judge, you can see if he's doing it at the back of the hand, is he doing it at the front of the hand, so is he an off-spinner or leg spinner. And Ben also said then the next one in terms of knowing which way he's spinning it is generally how the field's set. The ball is spinning away, generally a bit more offside, it seems to be a little bit more leg side, and also big spinners of the ball who generally go a little bit squarer.
You're enticing the drive at the end of the day. Big spin of the ball going away, big spread of the ball coming in. I mean, I bowl an off spin. I used to bowl an awful lot when I got the ball to spin big with no point. Because I wanted them to think they could play the ball that way. So I always looked at the field as a batsman when I was facing spin. It was one of the key points to pick up what they were going to do.
Yeah, and almost before we go on to ideas, you see all this knowledge we've got and how quickly we can tell it back to everybody else. That's how our players need to be able to tell it back as well. Because if they can't, they stand there with, remember that first board? That's what they're standing there with. If they, and that's, it's extremely important. We must have a lot of discussion with them.
So who's actually taking charge, who's doing what? Because it could give you an indication about the bowler's confidence.
Could be.
And whether to attack them or not, or whether the captain's got confidence in the bowler, depending on what field.
It could be such as, right, spinner comes on, Ringfield, 2 slips. This guy might be alright. You know, 3 guys on the boundary, there's a couple of guys out there as well. Might get a few to hit here. Yeah, definitely. Let's try and go beyond, because so far we've kind of got start of the round. We've almost got that start to be in these type scenarios. We're sort of planning
What their fullback options are, so if they could use their feet, whether they like to sweep, and understanding, I suppose, those shots and how they relate to what's coming down. So
what you are good at, what you might have to do within that game scenario.
I suppose there's a difference in the attacking shots here as well, aren't there, against the faster bowler?
Go on.
So we're potentially going to use our feet more,
Yeah.
and also we're going to probably look to sweep. There's probably a sweep shot in there at some point.
Might do. Yes.
So there's that difference, shot selection and different work on the shot selection against the faster bowlers.
Just jump ahead. Why is there a difference there? Why do we not have the same shots against fast bowlers and
reverse sweep against the fast bowler?
No, sometimes almost like scooping.
If we go 2020, you sweep anything now anyway, don't you?
Yeah.
Go spin.
Yeah, we do see that sometimes. Yeah.
Needs pace on the ball.
You've got more time.
Bingo. Hang on, come back. You said earlier about sometimes the ball or the return, you know, and you said about lack of spin. That's one of the key things we must break it down into. Let's forget the spin. We're going to bat against a slow bowl. And I'll tell you what, it is more often than not the fact that it is slow that the batters get out to than the fact it's turned. Okay. I'll take you through a bit more about that. But just so we don't run out of time, I'm just going to drop down a little list. This is not a be-all and end-all, and there's other things. Okay. If I was going to work with, with a player in one-to-ones, whatever else I might do, I certainly talk with a player about, like I said, as coaches, we know all this stuff, but we have to have, we have to create something where the players will learn that as well and be able to, sort of say it back to themselves when they're playing the games. Why is pressure built when the spinners come on? It happens. Why?
Normally a lot of balls.
Why though?
Multiple reasons. So I suppose that fear that you want to have a look at it. How much is it spinning? When it's the way it was always put to me was if one ball spins, the batsman's got fear, because obviously if you spin that one ball, it means they've got to think about something else. 5 balls, the next 5 balls might not spin at all.
Yeah. So there's definitely almost sometimes a lack of confidence of I don't want to get out. I'm just going to block the Jesus out of it. Could be again the fear of running down the wickets and getting stumped. So that's where, and I'll come on to it, about understanding when we do it and when we don't do it. There's something even more, even simpler than this, that pressure is not necessarily.
Was that the pace on the ball?
Bingo. Lack of pace. Because what will happen is, you get pace bowlers on, we defend, we sort of half bat it or whatever. Oh, a bit of pace, it runs to a gap, I'll run down over and it gets him. I get 2 sometimes. And each time we flipping miss hit this spinner, it goes nowhere. And the keeper picks it up, throws it back. And we're just stood there blocking, and we're not getting any runs. And the next thing that happens is, whoosh! But that's where we must help our players to understand that is the reason why we suddenly don't end up getting a lot of runs. I talked about that sort of 3-metre circle and 30-yard circle. The spinners, that won't happen so much in front of square. It can still happen just running behind the keeper, because no slips might run in there. But often to get runs, we've actually got to put a little bit of oomph onto the ball, whether that is a push to deep mid-on, for example, deep mid-on, or it's actually a hit that we're looking to whack out the ground or for 4 or whatever it might be. And that's what starts to undo players. Okay. So one thing we can have a go at is, like I say, is just batting against slow bowling. We don't have to give the players a huge amount of time to practice against to begin with. Shot selection. Okay. And I've sort of put here the drive ball. There's something I want to show you on the mat, so I'll come back to that one. Clear, limited plan. Okay. I'll talk you through this a little bit so we can get on and see a few things. Now, I talk to batters and say, and like I said to you guys at the start, and you had that first list, what's your plan here? What shots are you going to play? Okay, so that's what happens. Because the bowling is slow, we've almost got so many shots to choose from. The first thing that happens is we go, we start watching the ball, and then we make up our mind the ball's probably halfway down. So although the bowling's slow, we've only given ourselves half the pitch to play the shot. We might choose the right shot. Invariably, if we're trying to hit it hard, we probably don't hit it very hard because we give ourselves not very much time. But if we can say, right, this bowler is likely to pitch it up, there is, for example, there's a gap at mid-off or whatever it might be, and I can go, right, I'm going to play, if it lands right underneath me, I'm going to whack it. If it doesn't, I'm going to block it. And that could be it. So then as soon as the ball is released, instantly the batter knows the shot they're going to play. And they have the whole length of the pitch to play. And invariably they do perform the shot a lot better. Okay. On that, for example, you might have chosen, right, pitch it up, I'm going to whack it. If it's short, I'm going to pull it. Neither of those, block it. That might be a choice of 3. On that sort of idea, how many shots might we want a batter absolutely maximum to have in their head?
It's outside the defensive shot, I think.
Defensive shot being one?
Defensive shot being one?
Yeah.
I've heard a coach at Loughborough, and his claim was you wanted 5 attacking shots along with your defence, so let's go with 6.
Okay, my thoughts on that is, what a load of nonsense. You stand there, the bowler coming down, and you go, right, he's bowled it, okay, the ball's got to me, isn't it? Okay. You'll get 1 or 2 that are so obvious outside your plan, like it's the biggest, rankest, widest long hop, you get plenty of time to play it. Okay. I think you have 3. You might have 4. Okay. And I think you sometimes might get a couple if it's a short one. Is it a pull? Is it a cut? Okay. Now, we talk about, but you might have cover drive, straight drive, on drive, whatever. Drive's a drive. If it's pitched up, flipping whack it. If it's a bit offside, it probably goes offside, unless you've deliberately planned to hit it to mid-on where, they're back, for example. If it's a bit straighter, it goes straighter. I think if you had too many in, you just clutter the thing and it just becomes a mess and nothing happens. But it will definitely help. And then, let's learn against the turning ball as well. Okay. Now that might not be full length, whizzing it down, It could just be rubber balls, underarm, having a little go. Scenario work, stick fielders in. And on these sort of fielding positions, be quite true to if they're out or not, And as coaches, you try and play the game, build a little bit of pressure as well. If it's dot ball, it's dot ball. Tell them I love dot ball. You're not getting runs here. How many runs to get that over? And just try and create this, oh shit, and whack it. But to be better than that. Just quickly, what age, what sort of, and when do you think we should, and we briefly touched on this already, should we start introducing batting against spin?
They've got a chance of playing against spin. So
I think sometimes even before that, because it's fun as well. If little kids have ball turning about, they might not be very good at it at all. But already you've given them their first experience. They're 7 years old, they're 9 years old, and they've had a few hours worth against spin. So then when they finally do face a bowler who actually might be alright at spin in the game, well, that's not their first game. Down the wicket and sweeps. Good bowler or bad bowler when we do these two?
good.
Why?
Because it's good length, balls you're attacking.
You know it's going to land. It's going to be. Okay, I'm going to change a little bit, but essentially it's going to be roughly in that spot each time he bowls it. That's why he's good. These two are brilliant shots because you can score runs off a good length ball. What's the issue? Perhaps trying to come down the wicket, for example, against a bad bowler.
Guess what? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
So what might be the issue of trying to come down the wicket against a bad bowler?
It may be short, or may bowl short.
I don't know where it's going on. Okay. And actually, if they're a bad bowler, you probably get into the crease. You'll be getting full tosses, drives, pull shots. Cut the risk out. You have to come down. I think this is really, really important. I think these are two shots you must allow the players to learn. Because then as soon as they face a good bowler, they're equipped with shots to do it. But I also think it's extremely important you make them understand that it ought to be a good bowler. And the reason for this is because, like we explained, but I will see kids come into the county sessions and the theme is, right, playing at spin, we're going to come down the wicket and we're going to, sweep as well. And we'll practice and practice and practice and practice. And then they go and play their club game and they come running down the wicket and your county player is out for not a lot. But that's what coach told me to in our county sessions. That's what we're doing. But this is on. Okay. We must also understand that actually these are more likely to happen in your district, your county games. In some of the club cricket we do, we don't have to do that. Because first 11 cricket we don't have to do that in, because the bowlers are not good enough sometimes. Okay. And it's that continual educating that we must install and get through to our players, so when they stand there at the crease, they are aware of all these factors that begin to make batting at spin hard. And once they're aware of it, those difficulties, those fears start to go away. They've got, this guy's very good, okay, I'll just stay in my crease, I'm just going to whack him. Or they've got dot, maiden. I'll perhaps just start to look in the next over. Maiden again. I know where he's going to land it. He's a good bowler. So I tell you what, I know what I'm doing. Down the wicket, bam. It might then be the case that you just wait for the next ball. Because so often, a bowler comes down, batter comes down the wicket, next ball, the ball runs out again, and just squirt a little bit quicker. Thank you very much. Another boundary. But if they keep doing it, it comes down the wicket again. Sweep again. I put sweeps as well, because it's not just your fault. Sweep. Little reverses, little paddles, slow sweeps, whatever is needed. If a spinner landed in that red box, could we drive it?
Dangerous.
It depends on
The general consensus of the field would be, I'm telling you, yes or no?
No.
Unlikely. No. Why? Why can't we drive that?
Not sure how much it's going to stun by the time it's got to.
Another
bounce as well.
Bingo. If a fast bowler came down, now we'll assume they're relatively pacey, right? As that ball landed somewhere in that red box, what sort of height might that then arrive at me? Yeah, knee maybe, top shins. Okay. If a spinner came down and a slow bowler landed it in that box, what sort of height might it arrive on me? It's higher. And also, you know to drive it. And that's where, forget the spin, that is what gets the majority of batters out. We've seen it time and time again. Here comes that drive, chip in the air, through bat and pad, bowled out. Someone show me, where, if I'm going to stand here, okay, smack it hard on the floor, who's going to put a ball in a position where it's going to be easy for me to do? Brilliant. Yeah, I agree as well, okay. Basically, it's going to be landing right underneath us. Okay. Here, and it doesn't matter how much the guy's turning it. It's got an inch before I smash it. He could be Shane Warne. I'm not missing that. Okay, it's not going to spin past my bat. Shane Warne might drift it quite a lot and make it slightly tricky for me. But up here, as soon as we must make the batters aware of how long foot this ball has to be for them to smash it. This will go on the floor. Okay, it's close to us, the bat is going to be angled down. So at this point, encourage them to belt it. And we're talking about giving ourselves the best chance. If I now inside edge it, outside edge it from here, it's not going anywhere. Okay. It might not go as a screaming cover drive and have the fans on their feet kind of applauding, but it'll still race out somewhere. I'll probably get some runs. Okay. We don't hit all the runs out the middle of the bat. We don't have to. Okay, if our shot selection is good, that is going to assist us in getting the runs we need. And this is vital. The number of, and this is almost, I reckon, more than 90% of the time, the first point I have to highlight to players I'm working with. You know, I'll throw a few balls, and my general start will be, right, you're going to do a spin. I'll lob 6, 10 balls down, over and a half. You play it as you see it, and then we'll go from there. And so often you've got that halfway up in the net, plinking up, because they are trying to drive the same ball that they would against a fastball. But you ask them about it, and you try and, you know, you ask them where the ball has to land for them to find it hard. And a bit like us, they don't appreciate how full it has to be. Okay. Right. There's one extremely important point. This next little scale I've put here, the reason I use this, and this will work to anyone, fast bowling, medium pace, whatever, is just to help the batter play the ball a little bit later. You know, give them more control, make sure the bat is angled down if they want it to be on the floor, whether that's a defence or it is a drive. It's a very simple way of doing it. Naught I generally use the crease line, but it doesn't really matter. Ask them to hit a few balls, but start telling me what number they're hitting it at. Okay, invariably it's 3s, it's 4s, it's beyond that sometimes. And we hear so often, wait for the ball. And I'm sure sometimes players are so the devil being nagged about, you know, gotta wait for the ball. They'll even tell us, oh, I've got to wait for the ball, But yet they still don't. And they think they're hitting it under their eyes. We tell them to hit it under their eyes, but they're not. It's 3, it's 4. So then you can just tell them, right, next ball, you know, I want you to try and hit it at 0. And they're like, we're going to coach you mad. Okay, how am I going to hit it at 0? Okay, and they step up and they try their hardest to hit at 0. It's probably at 2.5. Okay, you know, and then, but all of a sudden it starts to give them not just a very easy visual scale to use, but then you can start to help them to get a feel for what it was like to hit it at that point. We'll play on this for a little bit. Pull that scale, whatever. And can they copy the same again? But it's just a very easy reference point. Now I've set this out as a right-hander. Okay, if you had a left-hander, you perhaps want to hand the other side, just so that as they're standing there, they can look down and it's pretty simple. Sometimes, and to make a player hit it in the sort of the sweet zone, which I do, you know, say for example, is around 1.5 on this scale-ish. Sometimes players might almost have to think about hitting it at -1. You've got this player that's persistently plinking it out in front of them. Okay, go on, try it at -1. You know, a player it might feel too. They might have an exact feel of where it is on that scale. It's different. But yeah, that works very, very well. Getting back to limited sort of plans and shot selection advice. We already said this sort of area. This sort of area is going to be right under me. I can smash that. It is going on the wall. The next one might be back that side of the line. Can we whack this one hard?
Can we back?
Second. From the crease. We go from the crease. So yes, I can whack it hard. Okay. Is it likely to go in the air or on the floor? Yeah, it's likely to go in the air. That's right. Okay, as long as we make players aware of that and they're not keep it on the floor, and they understand that, you know, that ball lands there, I can't get power, but I'm going to whack it in the air. Okay. This is one of those shots where you do it in practice. They stuff where they hit it skies, everyone has a bit of a laugh, a bit of a giggle. Try again. But that's where it's in a case of, oh well, come on. You know, we're going to practice again. Do practice again. Just get better. Alright. We've already talked about fear today. There is so much fear of failure in batters. Talk to them, you know, tell them, don't give up. You know, a bit of resilience. Just be better. We've got the whole winter to practice. We've got, you know, a month before the start of the season. Coming down the wicket. A couple of key things about it. Now actually that red box, ideally, is placed in a very, very good length for a spinner, whether that's an off spinner or a leg spinner. That's a pretty tasty length, okay? To know it's a good length, if a ball arrives underneath the waistline, that's generally where we want it is a good length. As a spinner, you're sort of top of knees, that's generally about the sweet spot. So perhaps the fuller end of this box will be a good length. What are the key things about coming down the wicket? How are we going to get that control? Balance is extremely important. And that's generic to all our shots, isn't it? Okay. Balance gives us accuracy, gives us timing, gives us power as well. It's a very generic thing. That's not just cricket. Cricket is not special. Okay. We think of this great big complicated wonderful game. It is a wonderful game, but really it's an awful lot generic thing. Okay. So for example, balance gives us accuracy. Let's go right away from cricket. Darts players. Okay, they're standing hockey, some of the most accurate players in the world. They don't lean over as they try and throw the dart. Okay, they might hit their target. They would hit their target sometimes, but not as often as if this. Okay, Bass is actually saying we're just trying to be accurate with the middle of the bat. Okay, if we're balanced, we give ourselves that better chance, that best chance I was talking about. We give ourselves the best chance of being accurate with the bat, whatever shot that is we're playing. Power as well. Your boxers. Okay, some incredibly powerful people. Alright, I know our target is the ball, their target is their opponent's nose. Okay. If they're balanced, they manage to get all their momentum through their target. If they are trying to hit them hard, they will hit them hard. Same for us, if we're balanced, we're going to be accurate with the bat, and we're going to be able to get momentum through our target. We're not going to get any wash off to the side. If we're trying to hit it hard, we'll stand best chance of doing it. So balance is important, but that's a generic thing. That could be from the crease, that could be wherever you want to stand. But back to coming down the wicket. Still haven't heard something that's extremely important about some key things that are different to playing from the crease.
Line of the ball.
Okay, so talk about that.
If you're predetermined shot, then obviously you want to get into the right line of the ball.
I think, in fact, so predetermined is generally a very good point. We generally will predetermine coming down the wicket to good bowlers because, like Craig says, we know where it's going to land. Okay. At what point do I start coming down the wicket?
Depending on the pace of the bowler, I suppose. If you're not.
It will-ish, because if you had someone who's very, very, very slow, you could go, oh, I'm going to come down and whack this one. Alright. Let's assume they're not very, very, very slow and they're sort of a pretty standard pace. I think it's really important you don't go before that ball has come out of the hand, or at least it's definitely leaving the hand. Because what you will get, a lot of bowlers, we talk about where bowlers look. Some look at the stumps, look at the floor, some look at the a general area, and some get a hell of a lot of feel off where the batter is standing. But because he's moved before I've let it go, I get that feel, I just get that judgment of where to land it. But if you go, it's coming out of the hand at that very last minute, there's nothing they can do about it. So there's an important thing. Okay, so I've decided where we're going to come down. I'm going to come down. Tell me about my first strike. Where do I need to get to?
You're going to pitch a ball again, probably more than anything.
Yeah, basically, you need to understand, actually, especially if they're a little bit quicker, they're reasonable length. Why they're a long way down. Okay. You'd be surprised how far down it actually lands if we start actually assessing where these deliveries land. It's quite a long way. Okay. We've got to go all the way. Okay. As we start coming down, we perhaps don't know the exact line the ball's going to be, but your first stride must be a big stride. You're not going to sort of come out of the crease and thinking, oh, if I miss something, I'm going to get back in. You're coming down the wicket, okay? And if you do it correctly, if you get a big stride in, there's a high chance you actually get to it being on a half volley, a full toss. You're not going to miss it anyway. Okay? Big first stride, and then I think, depending on what you're sort of planning, whether you go to the line of the ball, or perhaps sometimes, we give ourselves a little bit of whip to whack it. Okay. But yeah, big first stride is a bit of a, almost sort of that's something that must happen. Okay.
Foot patterns, because obviously there were always the two ways. Obviously, it's big strike, bring the third, and go again. Because obviously you could cross over.
On that, I tell you, it's interesting you raise that. And you must be sort of I'm very, very keen, and I know you'll appreciate it being sort of the more modern type coach education area. Every player is different, and we'll do it in different ways, and I don't think we should force a way on players. But I don't even talk about the ways to come down anymore. I just tell them, that's the outcome, that's what you need to do. I couldn't give a monkeys as to the way they do it. Whether it's clicking feet together, feet behind, feet in front, unless they're doing something that means they end up on their face, or they're off balance, then we might want to just sort of say, well, actually, why don't you try it this way? But, you know, the three sort of ways we could do it. Clicking feet together, feet behind, feet in front, I suppose.
Simply on that, you can still go with what technique they use. If they click their feet and they get it wrong, you just work on that.
Yeah, exactly the same.
Side on.
Yeah, exactly the same as you would with any bit of the game you're trying to improve. You know, don't make a judgment after one or two shots. Let's have plenty. Let's have a pattern. Okay, and then we can perhaps try and make it better. Because again, once we've done this bit, we're to the ball, and there's back to our generic. Well, we're playing from the crease here. Nothing different changes. You know, eyes level, balance. Shot selection as well. We can't run it down the wicket and think we must whack it. Okay, we might come running down the wicket and it turns into a blooming good ball. Okay, you don't have to whack it. Alright, defend the game behind it and do get yourself back in the crease. Okay. Again, that sort of goes into the more sort of educating the players to think and understand and judge the realities of the game. Sweeps. Tell me a few key points about a sweep. I'm left-handed, but I'll sort of try and do that side. I'll try and
Balance is critical. Narrow the base.
It's absolutely critical. It's absolutely critical. Let's turn this ball towards you, and I'll show you why. Okay. So whether we end up on a knee or not, I'm going to do it on my knee just because it's easier to do and talk. If we're to lose. If we're to, when we lose our balance in this position, we'll tend to go to the offside. As we do that, back face closes. Okay? And unless we get it dead right, we miss the ball. Okay? Balance is going to allow us to have a little bit more open back face if we wanted. Again, it goes back to just having that accuracy of getting the middle of the bat to where you want. I said about being on your knee or not on your knee. What's your take on that? What's your thoughts on that? Yeah, I really am in the camp of who cares. I couldn't care less. You must focus on the outcome. If they keep whacking to the boundary, I couldn't care less what we do. Some will kneel down, some won't. But again, there's still going to be almost a couple of nearly non-negotiables. Okay. Balance is one, like Greg says. Now here's an absolute, which you can use a scale for actually. Here's an absolute key one. I'll turn that round again. Because we know this ball's. Okay. It is vital that you are going to commit 100% to it, and you are going to get out at maximum reach to play it. Okay, one, because it's going to be a good length ball. Alright, you stand a better chance of getting on a half volley, easier hit. But also, if we go into the middle, what starts to get in the way of the shot? Me. Okay? And then I start trying to come around and I don't hit it. So I've got to get ahead of my front leg to give myself all the space here. Okay. And then we can play our hits, we can play our reverse, paddles, whatever it might be. But balance, 100% commit to the ball. As soon as we sort of go, and change our mind, we miss it. Okay, legs get in the way, back face closes, it hits all sorts of wherever, and sometimes we get out. And then going on to having an appreciation of actually what's happening if we had to belt it. Is it going to be guaranteed a lovely half volley, a lovely full toss? Well, no, of course it might be. You're lucky if you are, But the point is, you're probably going to have to whack a ball that otherwise normally you wouldn't do because it's not very easy to whack. So what is one or perhaps two absolute key nuggets of information to give to these players?
Eyes on the ball.
Watch the ball, and not the point of contact. Like the golfers, just keep looking at the point of contact. Okay? And power-wise? Yeah, I mean, this is where we're pressing again. Try and belt it. I mean, absolutely, hit it for 12. Okay? It might just go for 6. Wait into the contact if you can.
You said about not charging until the bowler's released it. What about deliberately charging and then not
Yeah, I think this is, like in terms of game plans, there's we can have the sort of, oh no, I'm not, thank you very much, cut, pull, whatever. Yeah, by all means. What I think is very important is, from the sort of hour we've done here, this is a very sort of real world, real scenario snippet of some ways that our players, and we can ensure these players become successful about batting against spin. And as I said, and like I said, there are a few more things we can sort of throw in the mix. And you may have seen other things that work very well. You may do things that work very well. And at times there might be some other bits and bobs I do. Just because I'm coaching a player, for that particular player, I see something that's going to suit them a little bit more. And as I said, that's ever so important that we don't think that, hey, we must do it the Tom Wright way. For goodness sake, that's not the case. But hopefully I was able to give you, share a little bit of insight into the way I would deliver batting and spin. Ways that I've been successful over a period of time, and hopefully just add a little bit more to your sort of coaching model that you have. And I think with this sort of plan, you must go out there as coaches and not be afraid to have a go at it. As I said, break it down. We can practice batting against the ball turning a lot, and I think in that instance, players get better just by experiencing it. They just become better at judging what to do. The sort of fine intricacies of playing that ball off the pitch. Much like riding a bike. Once we take the stabilisers off, we wobble quite a lot, but after having more and more goes, we just sort of read the situation a little bit better for ourselves. I think that's the same for playing a tournament.
With the younger age groups, you said what age would we start?
Yeah.
Would you talk too much about hitting with the spin or against the spin?
To be honest, I hardly talk about it at all.
No.
I generally talk more about where we're going to hit it, and if that's with or against the spin, I'm not too fast. For example, if it was turning away from me lots and the field over here was completely packed and there was nobody on the leg side, I'd play a spin, belt it over there. I think it should be I think the game's made very complicated. If we just get the few generic things right, we've got a good chance of being successful. The only other thing I haven't really said is, because we see on telly a lot the players playing on the back foot. It can work in our club cricket, but often it doesn't work in our club cricket. Why not? Pitches are nothing like the quality of what they are in first class cricket. And in the nets. If the pitch is consistent, you can safely move on to the back foot, gives you a bit more time to see the turn and play. Some of the pitches we might play on in club cricket, we go shooting onto the back foot, we get hit on the ankle.
This goes back to the young West Philip on extra turf pitch. And you all do go back start.
Yeah, don't they? Yeah.
And then of course they're so used to going back there when they get the 13, it's still back here.
Yeah, and this is where the whole sort of educating them on actually what's happening. And, is the pitch consistent? Is it not consistent? How fast is the bowler? Is it turning? Is it not turning? And making sure they stand there and they know what they're going to do. And as I say to them sometimes, if you don't know what you're going to do, you've got the easiest plan in the world. You've got one shot, you go dunk, and you block it right from that first ball. You go, what's the pace like? What's the turn? What's the wicket like? Where are those fielders? Have I got an opportunity to get a run? Can I add this drive into it? And what we want to is get to a stage where they quickly come up with a plan about playing the ball that's coming down at them. Not to be 3 overs later still going, because like I said, they won't get the same freebies that we do off pace bowling against the slow bowling, and they'll just get stuck. Cool. Right, as far as I'm concerned, that's
Thank you.
I'm happy with that, but what's Sidler's his bit? I'll hang on if one of us sort of had anything else.
Thanks, Marty. Great, excellent.